Hey everyone, Trail here, another article aftermath this week, and I suspect it might be the only video I upload this week, I don't know. Things have been really busy for me lately, and Pokemon's been out, and I have been obsessively playing that. I just beat it last night, actually, finally got through the Elite Four. Took me a while, but it finally happened, and I'm interested in playing that a bit more before I kind of put it down for a while and then check out some other things in the meantime. As far as Yu-Gi-Oh goes, I haven't been playing a whole lot, but what I have been playing has been a lot of Dragunity and a lot of Constellar. In particular, if you guys saw the last ARG Open Circuit Series, something of that note. Their last tournament they just had, where actually the finals was Constellar versus Evil Swarm, and I think that surprised a lot of people who were expecting more dragons. I certainly was surprised when I heard that Evil Swarm and Constellar were in the finals, and it's very interesting to see that change, especially with Constellars and Evil Swarm. They have good dragon matchups, and they were both very much teched out against dragons, but we still haven't really been seeing them a whole lot. If you look at the numbers of the people who went into the tournament with dragon rulers, with Dragunity rulers, it's still, again, very, very surprising that a non-dragon ruler deck topped, let alone two of them being in the finals together. Noting that we do have Constellar being a threat and Evil Swarm being a threat, I think it's time for Dragon Rulers to stop maybe obsessing about the mirror match as much as they have been, and then also decide, okay, hey, we need to deal with these matchups, and maybe Xyz Encore isn't going to be enough, because all of these decks have the ability to start main decking stuff like Imperial Iron Wall, and that's such a boon for the Dragon Ruler players who don't have access to Blaster's effect as often as they do now, or as often as they have in the past, thanks to stuff like Burner. Without the baby dragons, Imperial Iron Wall is a much more threatening card. Now, on the other hand, if you go and you try to tech some things and you change some things around, then are you weakening yourself with a mirror match? Maybe, and that's probably a more likely matchup. I think you'll see a bit more of a resurgence of Constellar and Evil Swarm following this. People are going to go, oh, hey, Constellar is actually good enough to run. Maybe I should give it a shot. And not a lot of people have really picked up on that deck. It's very weird and very strange to watch. Yes, Xyz Encore is a very potent card, but when you can overlay that Encore Pleiades or Omega into an M7, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal. It's a big macro deck, it's got a lot of hate, and it's got a lot of combos with Pleiades, so if you don't have that Xyz Encore, you're going to be in a bad spot. Anyways, let's talk about my last week's article, which was on Conversion Horus Rulers. This is a deck that I've been kind of experimenting with a little bit. It's the culmination of my what I've experimented with in regards to Dragunity, as well as Dragunity Rulers, and finally experimenting with Horus, the Black Flame Dragon. And it basically started back in July when I got wind of this new tech that people were running in Dragunity, where they would bring in one blaster, one Horus level 6 and one Horus level 8, and they would use that against spellbooks. And I tested it and I liked it, and I took it to nationals and I played in side events there, and every time I would put Horus level 6 on the board against spellbook players, they would pretty much scoop, because at the time, of course, they were running a lot of very small monsters, and all it took was one attack. You played the level 8, you won. There pretty much wasn't any way for them to get around it most of the time, especially if you sided in lances along with them. I kind of dropped the deck and dropped that side deck as an idea. I kind of sided it a little bit more. I think the last tournament I went to, I sided just a couple of copies, because at that point I was running a variant that uses just 3 Tempests and 3 Blaster. It doesn't run Sacred Star Swords. It's much more Dragunity than it is Dragon Rulers. And I was experimenting with that, and I came to the conclusion that Horus was still good, but it needed support, and so I decided to drop it for a time. And that was something, I dropped, and then I said, or then I found this card called Castle of Dragon Souls, which is entirely the reason that I went back to Horus. I would not run Horus if Castle of Dragon Souls did not exist. Basically, you flip it, you banish a dragon in your graveyard, you target a monster you control. Any monster, doesn't have to be a dragon. And it gains 700 attack, so you can use this during the damage step. It's continuous. It keeps the attack even if Castle goes away. And then, of course, when Castle is removed from the field or sent to the graveyard, you can target one of your banished dragon-type monsters, special summon that target. You can only have one face-up Castle of Dragon Souls. So, basically, your level 4 Horus, you can swing with it, flip this card and boost it up by 700, which is a fair bit. I mean, that puts it up to, what, 23? There's 700 difference between each of the Horus levels, so this puts it at 2300. It's going to get over a lot of things, at 2300. Maybe not in the Dragon Ruler matchup necessarily, but there's quite a bit that Horus can get past when it's been boosted that high. And that, of course, extends to Horus level 6, which in turn can get boosted pretty high, boosted up to 3,000. And then Horus level 8, it can get kicked up to 3,700, and that keeps them from using things like Acid Golem or Gaga Cowboy to swing over it, or even like a Blue Eyes White Dragon. Another key thing here with Horus is that it does not have to send to the graveyard. You can attack tokens, destroy them, and then go from there. So Draco Sack tokens, fair game. Go ahead and level up your monster. Particularly with 6, you can do that. Although the downside, obviously, is if they've got Draco Sack tokens on the board, there's a good chance that they probably have a live Draco Sack. But say, here's a scenario. They go Draco Sack, tribute a token, pop one of your cards or whatever. Next turn, you could use Blaster's Effect to special summon it from your graveyard, or Blaster's Effect, special summon it from your graveyard, throw a level 4 on the board, and attack into both of their, attack into their token with Horus, and then attack into their Draco Sack with the Blaster, destroy both of them, level up into that level 6 Horus next turn. And then if you set, or during the end phase, if you have that set Castle, they can't run it over and they can't Dark Hole it because it's immune to spells. And they can't try to lance it, they can't do a whole lot of things. And the way the deck is set up, it tries to play something of a Horus, protect the Horus game, but if you lose it, it's not a huge deal because Castle, again, is really awesome here. Remember that our Horus is a fire dragon, which means that if you do banish dragons and fires for Blaster Summon, you can very likely banish your Horus and then just get it right back with Castle, which is pretty crazy. You can do a lot of tricks with this. One of my favorite things to do with Castle right now is to banish to kick up a Scrap Dragon by 700, which puts it at 3,500. And then use Scrap Dragon's effect, destroy Castle, destroy another card, and then boom, Castle activates, you get back your banished dragon, which is crazy. You can do so many things with that. You can just banish a Red Eyes and then pull the Red Eyes back and then bring back another monster like a Stardust Dragon. Or do that, bring back a Horus level 6, swing over their card, and go from there. It's just the amount of combos you can have within just with Castle is ridiculous. And I was telling people, after the last YCS San Mateo, I commented on some status and I got like 30 plus likes or something. I was like, people aren't already main decking Castle? It's such an amazing card. There's so many ways to play it, and it gives you a huge edge in virtually any matchup. I really like the card. I really like the combos that it gives me, and I really like how well it supports the Horus engine. So a weak spot in this engine might be the level 4 going to the level 6 and then not really doing a whole lot. Against spellbooks, it's kind of cool. They are running more traps now, so that's where Forbidden Lance comes in. It helps protect you. It helps keep you safe, so you're not just losing your monsters all the time. And again, having Typhoons against them is really good. There's a lot of draw power in here between Maxi and the cards of consonance and the sacred sword, you're able to get to your cards a lot quicker. If you do draw the Horuses, they're fire dragons. You can discard them with Blaster's Effect to pop cards, or just banish them for any of the dragons to summon them on the board, or to summon your dragons. You can discard them with, or no, excuse me, you can't. You can search them with Tempest if you have to. You can just discard them with Ravine, so it's not really a problem with drawing into them too much. Additionally, you've got Debunk in the side deck coming in against certain things. You've got Quackimero Drago, actually, because Drago is amazing, and I'm probably going to talk about it next week. I'm pretty sure I will, because that card is huge, especially against Constellars, especially against Evil Swarm. I think it's very worth looking at. And then we've got Royal Decree as well. Royal Decree comboing very, very well with Horus. I would still maintain a lot of the traps, especially stuff like Return, which is a game-ending card for obvious reasons, and then Castle probably as well. And then Xyz Encore to get past. You get a little bit more hate versus Constellar and other decks. Constellar and Evil Swarm for the most part. But yeah, that is pretty much the deck. And yeah, the thing with running the Horus, the biggest benefit to running the Horus cards, in my opinion, is that it gives you the ability to activate Blaster's Destruction effect more often. To me, on-theme removal in any deck is probably one of the biggest assets you can have. If you can destroy cards, you can do a lot. And Blaster does that. That's exactly what Blaster does. It's what Dracossack does too, but being able to have that is such an amazing thing. Look, they've got Imperial Iron Wall, Blaster it. They've got Vanity's Emptiness, Blaster another card. It's just, Blaster is an answer to so many things. Basically, it's an answer to everything that isn't Dimensional Fissure, Macrocosmos, and Mind Drain. If it isn't those cards, you pretty much don't have a problem. I mean, I guess they could debunk you. But that's not going to be happening to us. They could debunk you and they could Stardust you, and that's about it. Yeah, it's such a crazy card. And you're adding in all of these fire monsters. You've got the 2 level 4s, the 2 level 6, and the 1 level 8. So that's another 5 fires in your deck, and you can get its effect off a lot more frequently. And yeah, so that's really, to me, one of the best reasons to run this deck, to run this conversion side. It's got its good matchups, it's got its bad matchups, like everything else. But it's surprising, too. It's interesting, kind of like how the Assault mode decks offer an interesting and different take on the game, which I approve of, and I think players who play Dragon Rulers, kind of almost owe it to themselves to at least experiment a little bit. Don't get just stuck into running. Oh, this type the latest ARG tourney, better go run it, because unfortunately, I think that's stagnating our game. So you have all these players who complain about how the game is just stagnating, and then they go ahead and they're just contributing to the system. It's one of the reasons why quote-unquote pro players kind of irk me a little bit. People will always talk about how bad the game is and then go ahead and just contribute to the system. That's why I have a lot of respect for more prominent players who go out of their way to innovate new strategies, or to at least expand greatly upon existing ones, even if they aren't always successful. And I look at people like Jeff Jones who do that, who has his fair share of tournaments that he was unsuccessful in, as well as many that he was successful in because he was running something different. He wasn't going with the flow, which variety is part of what makes this game fun. And it's unfortunate to see so many players get stuck into the same trap of, I need to run the best deck. And maybe it's time for those players to look elsewhere. I don't know. But, whatever. It's a valid strategy. Certainly you're going to win a lot more if you're running the best deck, the deck you're most comfortable with, even if it's the deck everyone's running. I'm talking about this while I'm writing an article on some kind of ruler variant when I could be writing an article on some other crazy variant. But yeah, that's about it for me today. This week's article is on the YCS, and talk about a couple tech cards in Dragons and in other things against Dragons. And then next week I think we'll talk a little bit about a different tech card. I think. I haven't decided yet. We'll see. Anyways, thank you for listening, and until next time.